Oh, I will gladly take avoiding a catastrophe here and dealing with people saying, "Oh, you were an alarmist," or you dropped Donald Trump too quickly or something like that. But, I got to say, I again, I don't really think we were wrong yesterday. The fact that a catastrophe may be averted doesn't mean we weren't flirting with a catastrophe. And the fact is that the president of the United States was screaming about regime change, which would have led to an absolute disaster. So I don't think we were wrong to be speaking up against that. I've heard from people on Twitter who are like, "Oh, Dave, I thought this was supposed to turn into World War III. Where's your World War III?" And I'm like, first of all, I never predicted that this was going to turn into World War III. I said that. Look, here's the thing that I think is there's a lot of stuff I think that happened here, and this is maybe one of the positives of it, but I think there's a lot of kind of eye-opening things that have happened even just in the last 24 hours, like just the last day. And I'm hoping that some people see this. Number one, and I think maybe I made this point yesterday on the show, but now that it's happened, I think it's really important to hit this home again. Number one, there is something very revealing. There's a lot of information that you get from the fact that, once again, just like after Soleimani was killed, but except this time it's a much bigger deal. They didn't just take off, kill an Iranian general in Iraq. They bombed the heck out of the country and bombed their legal nuclear program. And still, Iran gives advanced notice so that Americans aren't killed. Now, I'm sorry, but that tells you something about that regime. And it really, really undercuts the entire neocon premise for why we have to be in a conflict with Iran to begin with. Their whole argument is that if Iran gets nukes, Iran is so evil and crazy that they will just use them because they're religious fanatics who don't care about their own survival. They're essentially a regime of suicide bombers. So if they get a nuke, they're going to nuke Israel, and then they don't even care that they know nukes are going to be flying back in their directions. That foundational claim to this entire conflict is just been so tremendously weakened at this point, because you're telling me that these are suicidal maniacs, but even when their country has been attacked, in a war of aggression, even when they've been attacked, they still don't want it. Which is what this is consistent with everything Iran has done for the last 25 years. They do not want it. They don't, and for very obvious reasons. Of course, they don't want to actually end up killing Americans, because if they did kill a bunch of Americans, what do you think Donald Trump's response to that would have been? It would have been total destruction of the country and that catastrophe that we were talking about. But it's a catastrophe first and foremost for the mullahs. The Ayatollah is not coming out of that thing alive if we went that direction. And so actually, it seems that, like most human beings, they are motivated by self-preservation, and that they would much rather continue to rule their country than be killed. That's how, human beings tend to be. And even really, really bad people. Joseph Stalin had nuclear weapons and Mao Zedong had nuclear weapons. These are amongst the most evil human beings who have ever lived. But they didn't just go and nuke another country for no reason, because even they knew that if they did that, nukes would be flying back at them and then they would die. And they did not wish to die. They wished to rule. And so I think that is one of the first, and most important takeaways of the last 24 hours. But if you think about it, because I've had quite a few people telling me that, I was wrong to denounce Donald Trump and to rescind my support for him and all of that. But I don't think I was. And I wouldn't do it any different if I could go back. Look, think about the position that Donald Trump put this country in for absolutely no reason. He put us in the position that we were relying on Iranian restraint. This country that everyone tells you is the big bad wolf is such a thing that must be confronted and all of this. He put us in a position where it was only their restraint that allowed us to not get pulled into this war. Because look, we all know that if Iran had killed a bunch of Americans yesterday, which they could have done, and they chose not to do, that we would have just been lighting up Tehran right now. Today, we would be doing a much different podcast today if Iran hadn't given advanced warning to ensure that there were no casualties. We would be doing a much different podcast. We'd be lighting up Tehran right now and probably thinking about invading the country. And so thank God it didn't come to that. What a risky game to play. You know, as I always have with Donald Trump, as you always have with Donald Trump, Rob, we'll call balls and strikes here. I will hammer him when he does bad things and praise him when he does good things. So very stupid to get us involved in this war. Incredibly reckless and risky, but good for Donald Trump. It's absolutely all of that being done. It's amazing if he can try to push a ceasefire deal now and pull us out of this. But I don't really think, I don't know. I'm not seeing how we were wrong. I didn't say ever that this will with certainty be another Iraq-style war. I always said the danger is in the escalation. And it was the Iranians who gave us an off-ramp. And in this case, that's just the facts, like however people feel about that. And then the other thing that I hope is revealed to some people is how much the Israelis just, it doesn't matter. It is such an outrage that they would do this after Donald Trump decided he didn't want to. Like, imagine that our fat welfare mom of a country who can't do anything without us, who just has gotten tens of billions of dollars of support from America, and we prop them up and we protect them and we fight wars on their behalf. We just fought a 12-day war on their behalf, and then they'll turn around and not only not try to convince Donald Trump, but go ahead and try to get him, go ahead and do it, and then try to get him dragged back into the war. I just don't, like, how do you not treat a country like that as an enemy of your country? It is just beyond wild to me.